Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our regular Monday Open. Today is going to be a little bit of a special edition. We're going to go through the election in Australia, go through some of the way the Australian political system works and what impacts that might have on the markets. It's a little bit topical. We've just had the election called last week. It's in the middle of all this tariff stuff out of the US, but I think this will be an interesting topic for us today. I'm going to be doing this one by myself. This is Jeff Triganza from market analysis team here at Vantage, Vantage Markets Australia, the Australian entity. So that's me today. Hope you don't get sick of my voice. So let's run through. As I said, it'll be about the election, and we will be talking about the way that the election works in Australia and the way of government that we have here. We'll talk a little bit about the current polls. The polls will get, I guess, a little bit more intense as we get closer to the date. Some of the issues that people are talking about in the press, the two budgets that came out last week, market reaction that we are expecting based on which one of the two major parties will win, and then lastly, who we think is going to actually win the election. So let's run through the Australian election. So the way the system of government we have is called the two-party preferred system of government. This means that as there's an election, you'll see on your ballot pads there's maybe 5 or 7 different people that you can vote for. When they add them all up, the one with the least amount of votes gets dropped off, and then their votes are preferenced to someone else, so they can send their votes to a different party. So what normally happens in most seats is that your crazy independents get voted worst, and then they send their preferences up either to another crazy independent party or to one of the major parties. Ultimately, what happens, the major parties have the most relationships with all of the other parties, and it usually ends up being a two-horse race between Labor, the current government that we have now, Mr. Albanese, or the coalition, which is a coalition between the Liberal Party and the National parties. You can see that in the graphic. In the States, we would call the red policies, or in the States it'd be different. In the States, the red would be the coalition party. So the coalition is going to be a little bit more Trumpish, and the Labor Party is going to be a little bit more Bidenish as markets go. So that's an explanation of the way that the system actually works. It's pretty simple. This is why we don't ever, not that I remember anyway, have an election result on the day of the election. It's just it takes a lot of counting and recounting, and there are also always recounts, and then there's the preferences and all that sort of stuff. So sometimes it can take up to 2 weeks to know who won a particular seat. So how are the polls looking? At the moment, they're pretty close, as you would expect them to be right as we kick off. We've got the coalition actually slightly in front on the individual vote. But then again, you've got the Labor Party, and you add the Labor and the Greens together because the Greens vote with the Labor Party. So that would make when you add up all the preferences, the two-party preferred is that the Labor Party is slightly in front at 51%, and the coalition slightly behind at 49%. So that's pretty close. Generally speaking, towards the election, we get more of a swing towards the government. People kind of get upset over the last 3 or so years, and the initial polls are normally away from the government, and it starts to move closer towards as the polling goes. But as it stands right now, with the 2% margin of error, you would call that too close to call. Where it becomes interesting is that the preferred leader of the party, Peter Dutton's extremely dissatisfied in terms of people's perceptions. He's had a lot of trouble with people, I guess, becoming endeared with him. He's, from his old days as the immigration minister back in the old days, but even now, he hasn't really set himself apart, hasn't done a great job. Having said that, Albanese's entire government was based on a vote that didn't pass, and very little else. Excuse me. I think what we've also got is globally, you can see in the UK and in the US, is a move further towards the right side of politics, or the right wing. It's not right or wrong. So I think that might support Dutton and the coalition getting closer into the election, but we shall see. So next we'll go through what are the election issues? And these aren't what I think the election issues are. These are the election issues that I've kind of gleaned from the press. The press is mainly talking about, number one, the cost of living. You can see that our cost, this is a real household GDP, gross disposable income per capita. That means per person. So you can see that our disposable incomes have been pretty much in free fall since 2022, which ironically was around the time that Albanese won the election. A lot of other stuff happened around that time too. We were coming off the back of COVID. But not only has it collapsed, it's also below the OECD average as well. So, I mean, that's what people are looking at. I mean, a lot of Australian people obviously have family overseas, and they're talking about stuff when they get on the phone and they catch up. They say, oh, you know, how much is the price of grapes here or the price of bananas there? Obviously, everything in Australia, I don't think there's any question that the prices of everything in Australia have gone up significantly over the last couple of years, including mortgage rates. So, I mean, you know, cost of living here, not great compared to the rest of the world. Australia used to be called the lucky country. Now we're the expensive country. That's issue number one. Issue number two is housing affordability. I guess this is more of an issue for younger people, but you can see that our housing affordability is significantly more expensive than pretty much everywhere in the world. This chart is capital cities. So it's capital cities in Australia, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, the UK, and the US. So Ireland split out from the United Kingdom because it isn't part of the United Kingdom. You can see that it certainly hasn't improved. I mean, it's gotten a lot worse. We've got some of the most expensive houses per price income. So that what this means, this chart is showing that it is a higher proportion of a individual's income that needs to go towards mortgage or housing affordability, mortgage rates. And, you know, it just makes it tough for people to get ahead if you're always paying that rent every week, right? So this is issue number two. The government's going to sidestep this one by saying that it's a state issue and that the states are the ones who actually approve developments. But obviously, the government has done in the past and can do more to make it more affordable. Number three is immigration. This is the one that I guess the Liberal Party is really going to bang on about because they're really anti-immigration. Almost every week we see a headline about how many hundreds of thousands of people we're letting come in. And then you've got two different sides. So the Labor Party will say that this is good for employment. It's good for paying taxes. More people are here. More people are paying taxes. The Liberal Party side will say, well, what that's actually doing is it's increasing inflation. It's increasing cost inflation. And it's making harder for people who are already here and local to get jobs if they don't already have them. So you can see that our immigration is at levels not seen so far this century. It's dipped back a little bit, but you know it's on track to be higher again this year. So they're the main issues of the election, which I think each of the different parties are going to try and differentiate themselves across. The other differentiator that we have is that both of the parties released their pre-election budgets. So the Labor Party will release its budget. The rumours in the press was that the budget they were trying to hold off until after the election, which is not a good sign. And then Peter Dutton had a right of reply for the budget. So we're going to call that the coalition budget. The Labor Party came up with a massive tax cut of $5 a week. Thank you very much for the cup of coffee. Honestly, these pre-election budgets are normally what we call pork barreling, where the parties are throwing money at us. Excuse me. That hasn't happened this time, which makes me think that our budgetary position is really probably quite tight. If they can't find a little bit more than $5 a week worth of a tax cut and an extension of a $75 quarterly energy rebate, either they're not looking hard enough or we're in pretty dire straits. From the economics perspective, what we normally look at on the budget papers is not those headlines that you see in the Daily Telegraph and the Sydney Morning Herald. We like to see the expectations for the budget deficit and for inflation. The budget papers had the deficit blowing out to historical levels within the next 2 or 3 years, and they expected inflation to come back down to 2.5% in the year to June. In his right of reply, the coalition has come forth with they want to try and get rid of 41,000 public servants. There was no real reason why he wanted to do this. Obviously, there's just too many people next to his house in Canberra or something. We also had them extending the fuel excise discount. Not really a gift if they're just extending a discount on an excise that already exists, but that's where we're at. So the coalition couldn't really come up with anything any good either. I think over the course of it, for a normal family that were running one car, the coalition budget was going to be slightly in front. But, it depends if you're traveling, 5 minutes or an hour to work every day, really, doesn't it? The other one, and this is where the immigration comes in, the coalition wanted to cut permanent migration by 25%. They said that they will not announce income tax cuts during the campaign, which I think is a little bit wily, but we shall see how we go with that. I just find it a little bit strange that this particular election campaign isn't as transparent about what they're going to do. Obviously, if you're going to vote for someone, you really want to know what they stand for, and neither of these two guys are really, I think, standing up to say, this is what we stand for, other than the cut to migration. Market reaction. So, if the Labor Party wins, generally speaking, we will see greater spending, greater immigration, and larger budget deficits. That should lead to a weakness to Aussie equities and weakness to the Aussie dollar. The Aussie dollar is already pretty weak. At the moment, it's mainly tariff stuff and the fall in the gold price recently that's pushing that. But this is where we're at over the course of the next couple of years. If the Labor Party was to win, I would expect a weaker Aussie dollar and weaker local equities, and that's local equities in relation to others. So it's not necessarily downwards; it's underperformance more than downwards. If the coalition party wins, the right side of politics has more of a history of being fiscally responsible. That means reduced budget deficits. I think the last time we actually had a budget surplus was under a coalition government, and reduced migration, which should help with inflation a little bit as well. Markets will generally favour a coalition win towards higher Aussie dollars and higher local equities. A lot of the stuff with the equity market will really depend on what these two guys are going to do with the superannuation scheme. I think I read somewhere that superannuation funds hold about 70% of all listed Australian equities. So really, if they're going to make superannuation less tax effective and there are less flows into super, that would probably have more of a bigger impact into the Aussie equities than anything else. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, generally speaking, especially given that the election result will probably be finalised outside of Asia time, the offshore players will see the right wing parties as more firm for Aussie dollar and the Labor Party more weak for Aussie dollar. So what do we think? The last time we had a one-term federal government in Australia was in 1914. Historically, incumbent governments are more likely to win re-election. It's that nice little phrase of better the devil you know than the one that you don't. Polls are calling it very close. I think there's going to be more of a swing back towards Labor as the election gets closer. I think this election is Dutton is a little bit unlikable in terms of his personality and the way that he is. But I think this election is going to come down to whoever doesn't make a mistake. So it's like your football team's in front by 12 points with 5 minutes to go, and all they want to do is really just not drop the ball. My call, or our call, is for Labor to win with a reduced majority. I think that majority will be reduced based on their seats and also Green seats. I think the swing globally away from Green policies and Green parties is pretty clear. The Greens and the Teals, I don't like their chances. But I mean, they were never going to win the election. But I think they will both see reduced numbers of seats, and then Labor will kind of creep across. The fact that it's close means that outcome will not be quick. So it will take a little bit of time for it to actually filter through. But that's what I'm expecting. So a Labor call. Be careful with your equity holdings. And, for me, I'd prefer short on the Aussie. But having said that, the tariff stuff that's going on at the minute makes me want to be short Aussie too. So we'll see how we go. So that is it for our election outcome. In short, what we're looking for is for Labor to win with a reduced majority. That to have an adverse effect on local equities and local and the local currency. We shall see how it plays out. That's coming from about 30 years worth of experience from myself and from the team here, as well as more than that. That's what we're expecting. Thank you very much for sitting in and listening to my warblings about the election. This video will be uploaded to the VIP trading room that we have within our client portal at its completion. It's also being live streamed to our YouTube channel. That particular VIP trading room is also staffed by our by analysts from the Everest Fortune Group. They can give you a second opinion on stuff, answer some questions if you have them, and they can also share a little bit of analysis. Our relationship management team is also logged into that all day long. So if you guys have got any questions about your accounts, any questions about deposits and withdrawals, feel free to reach out to them. In terms of more content, if you liked this, we have our weekly technical video that's uploaded to that VIP trading room every Monday. If you like this but don't particularly like my voice, it's done by someone else, so feel free to watch that. We also have the private client daily update, which is written by the RM team every morning. If you want to be added to that mailing list, feel free to reach out to them, either directly via a phone call or through email or through the trading room. So thank you very much for your time. Happy electioneering, and we'll see you next week.